Hi everybody, welcome back to the What Now workshop for part 2 of our sign making project. So what I have here is pretty much where we left off, aside from the fact that I've cleaned up the K a little bit and made it a little bit more like a K. And I've had some thinking to do about what I want to do with this project. And so I've decided that I'm going to round these edges off. And how I came up with this radius for this was I basically just used a weight that I had, and I took a pencil and I figured out my spacing and basically drew my lines. So what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be cutting these ends off to make this piece round. And the other thing is that I've also decided to save and use my other piece, which was actually my practice piece. But for this piece right here, which is a little bit thicker of a piece of wood, because again, I like the way both of them turned out. So I just want to see, which one looks better. And I'm actually going to make it a poll type thing. You comment at the end of these videos and tell me which one you like better. I'd really like to get your opinions. So for this one, what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to first cut these ends off to make it round. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to sand this real good, because this is not sanded, it's not cleaned up. Make it smooth. And then now for my second piece, or my original practice piece, what I'm going to do is, again, I'm going to sand this. This one's already kind of been sanded quite a bit, but I've got this area right here that needs to be sanded off and a little bit of patching to do. So I'm going to sand this piece. And then what I'm planning on doing is taking some spray paint, covering as much as this piece as I can, and just spray painting a black gloss paint into the letters. And then I'm going to resand it one more time, and then I'm going to stain it with a light color stain. And I'm also going to use some sort of border around the outside edges. So I'm doing these two different ways. Again, this one, once I get everything done, I'm going to router these rounded edges. So that's going to kind of look pretty neat. But I'm going to do them two different ways. And again, I want your opinion. I want a vote. I want to see who likes which one best. And we're going to go from there. I am going to spare you all the cutting, but I will show you a couple things along the way just to maybe help you if you're deciding on what to do for any project you're working on. Okay, so I've got my piece sanded. Got the ends cut off and rounded the way I want them. The next step for this piece is to take the router around the outside, put a nice groove on it, and then take the torch, burn the wood, stain the letters the way I want them, and we should be done with this piece. Now our other piece, we are going to paint these letters with a black gloss. Now I taped off as much as I could. I really don't need to tape off every little thing because I'm going to be running a sander over it one more time anyway. So what I thought was maybe I would just spray paint what I can and then let it dry, sand it, and that will make the letters a nice glossy black. And then I'm going to stain the rest of it with a light stain and then put a border around it, maybe with a darker stain. I'm not sure yet. And then this one will be done. So we're ready to paint this. So let's go do that. Okay, so I've got my can of paint. And I'm just going to go ahead and spray what I can to try to get the paint into the letters. And again, I don't want to do too much, because again, I'm going to have to sand all this off. Okay, that doesn't look too bad. It doesn't help if you have a half-empty can of paint or almost empty can of paint, though. What I could do is I could stand it up. We'll let that dry. So where we can take the tape off and then we'll resand it. And then from there, we'll go ahead and stain with the light stain on the outside. So this actually should turn out pretty cool. Okay, so the paint's dry. Now it's time where we can take off the tape. And I'm just gonna go ahead and start pulling tape off here. Once we get to the next step, which will be resanding this piece. And then we should be pretty close to being done. All right, so we're just gonna finish pulling the tape off here. That piece right there. All right, so now what we're gonna do is we're going to sand off all this excess paint except for our letters. Then I'm gonna put a light colored stain over the top. And obviously we're gonna put a border around there. I might paint that the same color as the letters to kind of give it some contrast, or who knows, I might do a darker stain. So anyway, that is this part of the project, but we're still working on the other piece. Okay, so for this piece, what I've done is I let the paint dry overnight, and then I went ahead and sanded off the excess. So now all of my letters only have the black paint. The next step is I'm gonna set this piece aside and we're gonna continue working on our other piece. So the other piece that we've got here, I've already routed the edges here, just one router all the way around. Give it a little bit of depth or contour or whatnot. So all right, so what I'm gonna do with this piece is I'm gonna take this torch right here and I'm going to burn in the letters similar to what we did with the other piece where I painted them. This time on this piece, I'm gonna be using a torch to actually burn the letters in, and then I'll sand off the excess and we'll go from there. Now, what I found with burning wood with torches is you can't hold the torch upside down like this because the flame will go out and then you've got to relight it. So what I may have to do is pick up the piece and hold it while I'm burning it. So I may have to adjust the camera a little bit. I just wanted to kind of give you the heads up. So that is what we're going to do with this piece. And we're going to go ahead and get started. All right, so the first thing I need to do is I need to turn on the gas to this and then light it. All right, we got a nice hot blue flame here. So I'm gonna go ahead and lift this piece up and let's see what we can do with this. All right, so we're gonna try this again because my GoPro apparently heated up. And I'm gonna back up a little bit here because the GoPro senses heat and it wants to shut off. Now I've been doing this with wood for quite some time. It actually looks pretty neat when it's done. Again, you can experiment, do all kinds of different things with whatever project you're working on. And we get that a little bit. There we go. All right, I think, again, I don't want to burn too much. Oops, gas went out. Like I said, that happens once in a while, especially if it's upside down. Depending on how you're holding your tank. I'm just trying to get it into the letters, but I can sand the rest of it off. There we go. All right, let that burn out. And so there we go. So what I'll do now is I'll take a sander again, run it over the top to get rid of all the excess burnt wood, and then just our letters will be burnt like I wanted. And we're gonna go from there. Like I said, you can experiment a little bit. I've been doing projects like this where I burn wood, and it really looks kind of cool because it looks distressed, it looks old. And you can do this with any type of propane torch. You know, when you burn wood, you can see how the grains kind of come out. So it does look kind of cool, but it's a preference. It's, you know, it's whatever you want it to be. So experiment. Don't be afraid to try different things. Okay, so here's our piece after burning the wood and sanding all the excess off. As you can see, only our letters have the burn marks on them. I went ahead and took a sander and sanded all the excess off. I also went ahead and rerouted the edge just because I wanted a nice tight edge on it, nice clean edge on it. The next step is going to be to put some stain on this piece and then clear coat it, and I think we're pretty much done with this one. Now again, the other one we still have a little bit to do on. I've got to get out some border that I want to use for the outside. We painted this one, so I'm just going to put a border and stain it, clear coat it, and both of these will be done. And then you can vote on which one you like better. So stay tuned for part 3 where we finish both of these projects up. And don't forget, I'm going to want you to vote on which one's your favorite. So don't hesitate to vote. Stay tuned.